Another day, another long list is how it seems to be going at the moment. So I have come on today to talk to you about the Jhalak Prize long list. All of the long lists are coming out right now, but this is one that I was particularly interested in this year. If you are unfamiliar with the Jhalak Prize, this is a UK-based prize where it recognises British or British resident authors of colour across all genres, and it's only been running for about 6 years, I think. And yes, the long list was announced on Tuesday, and there are some really interesting sounding books on here. From the whole long list of 12, I only had heard of 2, and one of the ones I hadn't heard of I've already ordered because it sounds so blinking good. So let's run through them, shall we? Okay, well, I'm going to start with the poetry collections because I will really struggle to try and tell you what a poetry collection is about. And there are 1, 2, 3 poetry collections included on the long list. So we have Like a Tree Walking by Vahni, Capildeo, A Blood Condition by Kayo, Chingonyi, and Honorifics by Cynthia Miller. So those are 3 poetry collections. I know nothing about poetry, I don't really read poetry, but 2 of these were available at my library, so I've put holds on for them and I'm going to give them a go. I'm going to push myself out of my comfort zone and attempt a wee bit of poetry. So I will I'll let you know how that goes. So the rest of the long list I will give a bit better synopsis on. So the first one that was on the list is Consumed by Arifa Akbar. And this is non-fiction. This is a memoir about a girl whose sister gets really, really ill when she's young. And it's not until the day before she dies that they realise that she has TB. And we follow Arifa as she comes to terms with that and her grieving process after the death of her sister. And yeah, it sounds really interesting, really heartbreaking, and yeah, it's definitely one that I think I would like to try. Next up, we have Somebody Loves You by Mona Arshi. And in this one, this is fiction, and we're following a young girl who one day just decides to stop talking. She lives with a mother who's suffering from mental illness, so sometimes she's there, sometimes she's not, and this girl is dealing with all this and then just decides to stop talking as a sort of defense mechanism against all the things that are going on at home. So yeah, sounds hard-hitting, sounds interesting. Next up, we have Gay Bar, Why We Went Out by Jeremy Atherton. This one is non-fiction, and Jeremy basically goes through like all the gay bars and places that shaped him growing up as a gay man, and then he discusses the fact that these places are starting to disappear and they're not available for the young gay community anymore, and the impacts that he thinks that will have on this generation. So I'm not sure how interested I am in this. The concept sounds interesting enough, but not sure. If it makes the shortlist, I'll give it a go, but it's not something that I'm feeling gravitated. That doesn't make sense. It's not something that I'm drawn to. Let's go with drawn to. The next one up is the one that I have ordered, and it's called Keeping the House by Tice. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. And this looks at the sort of mechanics of the London heroin scene, but from the and it's multi-generational within a family, following the women in the family, and how basically they are the ones that are keeping it running. And there's like a quote at the top about one of the women who basically say, well, we'll just hide it in a cabbage, because she's a gardener. She's like, would you just hide it in the cabbage head? So yeah, it's I think it's supposed to be quite humorous, but obviously it's quite a serious subject, and I was so intrigued by this premise. Obviously there are a lot of books that look at the drug trade and all those sorts of things, but I don't think I've ever seen one that's multi-generational from a women's perspective. So yes, I've ordered it. It's coming. The next one is also one that I'm really, really interested in, and that is The Roles We Play by Sabba. And this is a graphic memoir. That is what sort of piqued my interest, because I really would like to read some more non-fiction graphic novels. I read Mouse last year and Persepolis and really enjoyed both of those. This one is looking at sort of contemporary life as a British Pakistani woman and how things are changing for Asian women really through the generations as you move sort of further away from the generation that came from Pakistan. And yeah, really, really keen to give that one a go. I think I will try that one regardless of whether it makes the long list. It sounds really good. Next up, we have Things I Have Withheld by Kai Miller. This was shortlisted for the Baillie Gifford Prize and is a series of essays, non-fiction essays. And this is looking at the importance of silence and privilege versus victimhood, with a particular sort of lens on race and prejudice. So they do sound like they would be good. Essay collections, I don't know if they're my thing. I read It's Not About the Burqa last year and gave it 5 stars. So I really love that essay collection, but it's not something I generally pick up unless I'm really, really interested in the topic area. And though this does sound interesting, it sounds a bit wishy-washy at the same time. I don't really know. It sounds a bit too broad for me. I don't know. We'll see. But obviously if it was shortlisted for the Baillie Gifford, it must be quite good, right? Then we have one of the ones that I'd heard of, and that is The Khan by Saima Mir. This sounds really fantastic. This follows a young lawyer whose family are basically gangsters, and her father gets murdered, and she decides to take a step away from the family criminalness. Wow, words are going well today. But she takes a step away from that and investigates the death of her father. So I love the cover for this as well. Hopefully it's somewhere over here. And yeah, it just sounds really intriguing and very different to all the other books that are on this long list. Then we have the other book that I had heard of, and that is Brown Baby by Shukla. I've heard of this because it's on the BookTube Prize non-fiction list, I think. And this is another memoir, and this explores race and feminism, but I think this has a particular sort of angle of parenting. So we look at how someone can raise a child and balance talking to them about race and protecting their innocence at the same time, which is obviously something that I don't have to deal with really as a white person, as a white woman. I have white privilege, and I don't have to warn my child that, you know, he could get stopped by the police or followed by a security guard because of the colour of his skin. I haven't had to have that conversation with him. Obviously, we discuss race in different ways, but as a parent, I can understand that that would rip your heart out to have to say that sort of thing to your child. So I would really like to read that and see that perspective. Yeah, I think it sounds like a really good interrogation of race and modern society. And the last one on the list is Things We Do Not Tell the People We Love by Huma Qureshi. And this is a short story collection. Short stories are not my jam. Apparently it looks at relationships and misunderstandings within families. But yeah, I have a video coming up on this later this month. But yeah, I can't gel with short stories. They just don't do it for me. So not super interested in that because of the format rather than the topic or the author or anything like that. But yeah, I am not going to read the long list, but I will definitely be reading the short list and doing the rankings of it. And there are obviously some that I really would like to see on here. Consumed, I think, would be really good. Keeping the House, which I will read anyway because I've bought it. The Roles We Play, The Khan, Brown Baby, and possibly Things I Have Withheld are all ones that I'm really interested in. But like I say, I am going to try a couple of the poetry collections regardless, just to expand my mind. So yeah, let me know if you are excited for the Jhalak prize this year, and whether you're following any other prizes other than obviously the big ones. So yeah, the Women's Prize and the International Booker have had a lot of hype on BookTube, rightly so, but what about the smaller prizes? All right, night guys.